Welcome to our exclusive series, Creating Web Pages with HTML. This is episode 8, Div and Span. The div and span tags are custom tags that we can use to liven up sections of regular HTML code. These tags are considered custom because they don't come pre-packaged with neat presentational formatting like the other tags do. All they do is tell browsers that code between their tags is either inline or block level. But we can use them to group sections of code together, then position and format them to look spiffy afterwards. As far as content goes, though, it's important to know that regular HTML tags carry meaning, but div and span by themselves really don't. Search engines and screen readers know that heading tags have more meaning than paragraph tags, and paragraph tags have more meaning than strong tags. Div and span are irrelevant tags, really. That is, until we link cascading style sheet commands to their content. Don't worry about these technicalities right now, though. This will all make sense in a bit. You won't use the span tag as much as you will the div tag. The span tag affects inline content, whereas the div tag affects block level content and is used quite extensively with page layout and positioning. And since you can't really implement the div and span tags without first knowing cascading style sheets, we won't do any coding today. Just sit back and have fun watching. So let's start off with the span tag, shall we? I've opened a simple HTML file in Notepad that has 2 paragraphs. I'll put the opening span tag before the word all, and the ending span tag after the word coders. Let's see what happens inside the browser. As you can see, adding the span tag does absolutely nothing to your file on its own. You have to link the span tag to cascading style sheet commands, otherwise known as CSS, to see anything happen. Let's do that now. Back in Notepad, I add an attribute to the span tag that links its content to some style sheet formatting. When we reload the page in our browser, we get this. Aha! Finally, we see the true power of the span tag. Notice I've added a border around the span area, I've set the border width and color, I've added a background color, bolded the text, and made the text blue. All that with one little span tag. As I said, you won't use them that much, but when you do, you'll enjoy it. Next, we'll cover the div tag. Going back to Notepad again, I'll replace the span tag with the div tags. As you'll see, regular div tags don't do much on their own either, but since the div tag is a block level tag, it will behave slightly different than the span tag. See that? The div tag puts its content onto its own line. Besides that, though, it doesn't do much. You could achieve this effect by just using some break tags, but again, when you incorporate some CSS into the mix, the power of the div comes to light. Adding the same attribute to the div tag as I did the span tag will give us the following results. As you can see, we've applied the same formatting here. The only difference is the effects extend the full length of the screen. So even though you might not know CSS yet, I think seeing the span and div tags in action before formatting and after formatting will help you when you finally do learn CSS. The only thing left to show you is how you would likely use div and span in a real-life example. Let's do that now. Let's imagine that we've coded the following page. We have a graphic, then a caption underneath, followed by 2 paragraphs. Simple. Most likely your web page will have a layout where you want your content to confine itself to an area that doesn't extend the full length of the screen. You'll probably also want the text to wrap around the graphic, which you'll also probably want to position too. The first thing we do is wrap a div around all of our HTML. This is what we'll get. I've put a border on the div so you can see it. The div contains all of our content. Next, I'll tell the div how wide to be and get the following result. Now it's getting interesting. As you can see, our div is about 400 pixels wide. This could be part of a 2-column layout if that's what we wanted. The last step would be for us to put the graphic and caption inside of another div that's inside the first div, position it to the right, and add some formatting to the caption using a span. We'd get the following results. Hot dog, look at that. Isn't that neat? I think so. Just remember, the powers that be who regulate the World Wide Web want us to separate our content from our presentation, and we can only do so with a div and span tag as I've shown today. Now that you understand both tags, you're ready to move on to their partner in crime, CSS. Until that time, though, I encourage you to practice your HTML, read some HTML books, browse online HTML sites, just to add to what you've already learned in this series. Our CSS series is down the pipeline, and to make your continued studies of HTML easier, perhaps I'll create an advanced HTML series too. But you'll have to find that out next time on Tutorials.